This drill is called Finding 100. We started this drill to help people find their natural match rhythm, or if you have the skill sets that you're able to, it enables you to push harder or slow down based on the way the stage is laid out. Plenty of people have talked about this before. Depending on kind of how the stage challenges are laid out or what the value of the stage means to you, if you're at a higher level, you might fluctuate the level of effort you put into shooting that stage accordingly based on whatever that value may be. So this drill is going to get pretty nitpicky about how much effort you're putting into the stage. And a lot of how we're going to categorize the score we get from each run is going to depend on the level of effort that we're putting in. So you can see I have sort of a chart right here that's going to demonstrate that. These two middle sections are between 90 and 95%. So we're going to call that kind of like your neutral. Ben might call that your just shooting pace, right? Beyond that, you have 100+%, which is pushing, right? And on the other end of the spectrum, you have like really like laying up, playing it safe, anything less than 90% of your effort. Once you have kind of a body of data, you're going to be able to use that to inform from a perspective of probability what the odds are of making a mistake when you're pushing at various levels, if that makes sense. So the way we're going to set this up is, of course, with this sort of data style. We have an array back here it can be anything. I usually like to set it up on an array that's kind of not particularly difficult, but has some risks available there. Like obviously there's some white no-shoots and some steel and stuff mixed in there. So you want to set calibrate the difficulty so that you have the ability to push on it without being a complete mess every time, but it's not totally obtuse to like slow down and shoot it way slower than you normally would in match conditions. Okay. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to do 1 or 2 runs, sort of at match pace, kind of at neutral mode, and I'm going to record the score on those. I'm going to, based on kind of how I'm feeling about it, I'm going to put them in one of the appropriate categories, and then I'm going to start fluctuating on either side, going to either pole of effort, and see what that data does. Sound good? So match mode here, just going to work across this array, just trying to make the cleanest transitions I can, shooting alphas and close charlies. Okay. Smashed a white guy on that one, clipped the edge of the no-shoot right there. Otherwise, that's all alphas, okay? So I'm going to write down on my score, I'm going to write the time, 3:85, 1 no-shoot. I'm not going to get spun up if I jack up one of these runs. I'm just going to base it without looking at the targets based on how much effort I put into it. I don't want to like use the whole picture to necessarily paint how I categorize this stuff, because even if I'm wrong about what I think I'm doing while I'm doing it, as far as how I'm categorizing things, that's going to contribute to the overall data set that I can use to view the actual performances later on. So I'll give another one of those. Shoot a net match pace here. Pick up on the steel there. 3.96. Took it a little bit easier still with the pickup shot on the steel. Probably shot that a little bit quicker if you factor in that pickup. Writing down that information with the time and the error. So now I'm going to drop it down. I'm going to go on the other side of the spectrum. I'm going to go at a speed where I can pretty much guarantee 100% of alphas all the time, like painting inside the lines at the actual perforations. It's going to feel pretty obtuse. I'm not going to like slow down my draw or any of the mechanics that I would want to do normally. I'm going to focus on just the shooting, allowing myself to see way more than I actually need to. Okay, 4.51. So that was just about a little over a half second slower. Of course, with all the points I'm expecting by shooting at that pace, I'll do one more of those just to keep it real. .29. Right, cut a little bit of time off that one. So now I got to go to the other end of the extremes, right? I have to push really hard. I'm expecting when I'm going well over my match percentage, my match ability, it's going to be like every other time, or even maybe every 3 times or so, I'm going to make a mistake that's going to be unacceptable for match conditions. That's just how it goes. I'm going to apply more risk by pushing harder on my actual shooting speed, and I'm going to accept the risks while doing that. Go for broke. All right. Laid a Charlie on the side of the partial there, and I didn't see anything on this right-hand plate. That was more luck than anything. If I do this 2 or 3 times more in a row, I'm expecting it's gonna get a lot more serious than that. 2.88. So I cut just about a second, but obviously with a lot of risk. Write down 1 Charlie. Bearing those things in mind, I'll do it once or twice more, see what happens. I think I'm playing a little bit safe on those. I'm gonna do that one more time. So I think I have a little bit more to give. I'm not even really painting outside the lines that badly. That was a 3-1-5. Decent hits. Yeah, well, that's more like what I'm talking about, right? You start to really push much beyond what you can do, you just lose the ability to hold it together at all. Two mics on steel, 2.87. So that's the same time I put up on the first run, but with very, very different results. Write down 287, 2 mic. Now I'm gonna go back to match mode, right? So you can kind of see the point of this here. If you have the ability to throttle your speed, it's gonna give you really obvious data right off the jump, like what's happening when you're doing this. It's not just about the specifics of any one run as much as it is generally how this data is trending. So for people of average to lower abilities, this is really, it's more so about like being able to go away from a really nasty run or less than desirable performance and recenter yourself and get back in your match mode really quickly. It does, I mean, just being able to bounce back and forth between those modes is a really hard skill, but being able to recenter yourself and find that match pace, that neutral pace is really the core skill for most people. So that's what I'm gonna try to do right now. .327, all right? Looks like the points are good, right? You can see there's a little bit of a practice effect, right? So after you're shooting the same array a lot of times over, you're getting more and more attempts at the visualization aspect. So you're gonna expect at some point things are gonna start to go better just because you've taken so many cracks at it. So I cut about, give or take 0.6 off my original time with good points after giving it a few tries, and that's pretty normal. Right, so do one more of those. All right. I think I doubled Charlie that left-hand target there. My grip wasn't too hot out of the gate, but risks are risks. 3.16, so a little bit faster than the last run. 2 Charlie, okay. I'm gonna go back down to either pole. I'm gonna drop it down into low gear, shoot at 85%. I'm expecting I should be able to shoot all alphas. Painting inside the lines very cleanly. 4.15. Right, so cut a little bit of time off that run too. Right, go back to the other extreme, pushing really hard now. I really have no idea where the hits in that partial went. I don't think they went high, but I didn't necessarily see where they went. Definitely double charged the left target, hooked up on the steel, which was cool. Right, 2.62. Put a question mark next to that shit. All right. I would traditionally go along and collect a little bit more data than this. Bring it in here. I would traditionally go along and collect a little bit more data than this, but you can kind of see generally, right, how the time trends. So in the middle of this kind of bracket here where I'm shooting relatively like neutral shooting pace, I'm averaging around, give or take, over the course of that whole thing, around like 3.5, 3.4. On the fast end, a little bit more erratic. I have some that are up around 3.2, that some are that are around 2.6. There's not nearly as much consistency there. And obviously, I'm double miking, I'm missing steel left and right, I'm double Charlieing stuff left and right. It's just not gonna be okay. On the lower end of that spectrum, I'm leaving a lot of meat on the bone. So I'm give or take up around like 4.3 or so for my time. So I'm giving away, like, just on a little array like this, I'm giving away around a half a second or so, with very, very clean points. So you can kind of understand from a probability perspective how this plays, like, right? Like if I show up to say a 10-stage match and I'm shooting at a pace where 1 out of every 2 or 3 times something is going to go really drastically wrong, that's not going to play well, right? Like if you just do this, like the simple math, just the probability perspective, you're going to make at least 4 to 5 mistakes if you shoot at that pace over the course of the match. And that's only if you have stages that are the size of this one array, let alone 3 to 4 times larger than that. So that's sort of the whole summary of this whole thing. Finding 100.